Cut the damn music. Sorry, I had like a 1 second pause there. Cut the damn music, everybody. What's going on? Hope you're great. Am I not muted? Reverb. All right, never mind. Okay, everything's good. What's up, folks? A couple things. Right off the bat, for a brief period, this is big. Okay, we had to take this down for a while. There's a variety of reasons for that. Sourceless is back up. Okay, so this is all the stuff, including 20% DHT gel, anything you can think of, testable esters, any anabolic possible. Listen, the usefulness of being able to experiment with whatever you want regarding androgens, HRT, mostly, not just for cycle purposes, but like mostly to dial in, it shouldn't be understated, the usefulness of that. All right, there are 3 additional sources in source list. So it is not the same source list as, previous. It is updated with new sources. And one of those new sources, it adds like 200 products. 200, okay, additional options. You're going to want to grab the new source list, guys, livecortex.com. It is up. It is available now. And I'm going to fucking pull it down soon, okay? So go grab it while you can. Get the source list. It is up. It's not staying up forever, all right? Livecortex.com. I'll see if I can throw it in the description as well. See if I can do that real quick. A couple things to talk about, though, regarding DHT. While we do that, just edit the description for a segundo here. There we go. Done. Okay, let's talk about DHT real quick, boys. Listen, I have done endless videos about DHT, the power of DHT. I think that it's a tragedy that it has gotten branded strictly the hair loss, hormone, and like the acne causing hormone. Yes, I mean, a little more DHT might cause a little more acne, but at some point you got to you should be able to figure out your acne baseline to where you really don't have any. And then if there's a little bit on top of that, live with it. It is so much more worth it. And not everyone's going to even have more acne from DHT. But I can tell you what, I've seen more and more that a little bit, okay, a little bit more DHT. That really is the sweet spot. Now, for serious sexual dysfunction, sometimes a lot of DHT, but even a lot of DHT, transdermal DHT or DHT that comes from transdermal cream, even like a lot of it can be too much eventually. So you have to find the right amount of DHT, whether it's from transdermal actual DHT gel or it's from test cream on the testicles, that enhances the sexual function, balances out what might be an overage of estradiol at the sex organ tissue level, which is just going to inhibit everything, and make everything perfect. Okay, listen, I want to be super clear with people. Estradiol, only to the degree that it's in your range, contributes to libido, over which it starts to decline and under which it starts to decline, significantly more under which. Testosterone, via some stuff that happens in the androgen receptors in the brain and in the brain itself from testosterone, somewhat involved in libido. But DHT, guys, DHT is the thing that makes you go, excuse my French, fucking crazy for your woman or for whatever it is you're interested in. Absolutely crazy. That libido that is so insatiable that you just want to be an absolute animal to your girl, your whatever. You want that. You really do want that. It feels really good, no matter what age you are, especially if that's declined over the years. If your libido, that drive, which, by the way, is part of what constitutes you being a man, if that has declined over the years and you haven't felt that in a while, there's a part of you as a male that's missing, and that does not feel good. You have to be a fully integrated male. DHT makes you that, not just for the libido side, but the mental side, the cognitive side, the being measured side, the dealing with stress side. And whether it's a little bit of transdermal DHT gel, which you can get in source list, 20% stuff, literally, right now. And it's shipped to you. You place the order today, it's shipped to you. You're going to get it at your doorstep, and you have DHT. Or it's test cream, just a little bit that you apply to the scrotum. It makes a huge fucking difference. You don't necessarily need strictly test cream. This is another point. Okay, and then some HCG and stuff, because that's kind of hard to balance out because it converts a lot to DHT, and too much DHT with not enough estradiol or DHT blocking estradiol at the tissue level, which it does via downregulation of aromatase genes. That's not good either. You have to have the right amount, and sometimes on injections, you just don't have the right balance of DHT. And if you add a little bit, guys, you'd be surprised how much you can go from sex function being like, all right, but you're not even really that interested. Your boners are all right. Maybe throw down some Cialis and it helps. Libido's all right. Sensation's all right. You're like, all right, this is passable. Sometimes the difference between that and fucking amazing is a little bit of DHT, boys. Okay, not because for a couple of reasons. DHT itself on the ARs, powerful for all that. The medial preoptic area of the brain, powerful for that regarding libido and sexual function. But erections, okay, guys, you have to listen. Erections are driven by DHT. They are in the right amounts. The difference you will see when you get the right amount, which you're going to have to experiment with. I'm not saying it's necessarily easy. You have to just find the dose. The quality of your erections, the thickness of your erections, when you get the right amount of DHT on top of a TRT protocol, I mean, it's the difference between going from, okay, it's all right, it's fine, like, you know, and I need a little Cialis, kind of whatever, or not, to steel rods. Steel rods, boys. This is what you want. It's what your women are going to want. Right? I'm not like the Dr. Phil for sex, but I just want to make sure people understand that. All right? Get your hands on DHT source list, you know, or if you can have your clinic prescribe you test cream, preferably at a low concentration, 100 milligrams per milliliter, because then you can rub a little bit at a time, a quarter of a pump, half a pump, just on top of TRT. You're going to fucking see that I'm right. And you can go from suboptimal to super optimal sexual function, or okay to the teenage years. I promise you, that's not hyperbole. I do it all the time. I do it to myself, and it works. So please keep that in mind. Let's get to questions. No, the source list in SIP, Mastering SIP, and this is not the same. The source list in Mastering SIP is the old version, which this is pretty comparable. You're going to get a lot from the old version as well, but there's 3 new sources on the new one. 3 new sources with hundreds of new products, hundreds of new options of some of the same products with some different products. Dream big. Do I think that DHT derivative add-ons to your TRT suppress the endogenous production of pregnenolone and DHEA furthermore than TRT alone? I think it does. To the extent that it will shut you down further intratesticularly, sure, anything that does that will do that. But it's not, I don't believe there's any evidence to suggest that it's shutting down the production of those hormones from the adrenal glands. No. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. So no. I think that what you might be experiencing is adding a DHT derivative is causing some sort of side effect in you, and you're attributing it to the suppression of endogenous production of pregnenolone or DHEA. You have to remember that all that is your theory. So it's a group of neurons firing around in your brain that you don't know is true. So you can think it does, but you need to be ruthless about this in terms of proving it or not proving it. I do not think that happens. I think if you're getting a negative effect from a DHT derivative add-on, it's because it's suppressing estradiol. That's why. That's what I have come to experience. It's not just what I think. I know that's why people have side effects with those compounds if they're in the wrong doses. Again, this goes back to my point. DHT added or a DHT derivative like Masteron or Primo, because they essentially offer somewhat of the same effect here. It needs to be the right amount. It must be. Because guess what? If it's the wrong amount, it's not going to work. Your dick's not going to work. We're not going to get better. Then you're going to go Masteron, DHT itself, Primo, it's shit. Doesn't matter, makes things worse. You need the right dose. You need the right dose. And then believe me, the sweet spot is right there. Here's the problem, though. The sweet spot for sexual function regarding estradiol and DHT, because test really doesn't have a whole lot to do with all that, is narrow. So you have to construct your protocol to land you in that narrow range. Whether it's with an AI, Masteron Primo, on top of your high test, or if it's low test, just enough tests, you know. But add-ons, you know, DHT derivatives, DHT itself, the right amount of HCG, the right amount of DHEA, all that matters, but you need to be right in that sweet spot. And it's, you know, that zone is not like this. It's like that. If you can get there and stay there, everything is great. That's what you need to focus on. Why is my voice on Masteron deeper than on Proviron? Is Proviron weaker as an androgenic steroid? No, Proviron is more strong as an androgenic steroid than Masteron. But Masteron of the DHT derivatives is closest to DHT itself. That's probably why. Is what I would think of. Like molecularly, it's much closer to DHT. It's just it's actual DHT backbone, and you inject it, and it stays around longer, and all that stuff. And you know, I didn't experiment with Masteron enough to know. I used it, right, but not enough to really compare it. But Proviron makes my voice deeper for sure. For sure, it does. You know, it does. It's. I wouldn't wager it's a huge difference, but hey, man, if that's what it's doing, that's what it's doing. I don't have a whole lot of experience with growth hormone. It's not something that I have used. The only and I don't consult people on it generally. The only experience that I have is my girlfriend and love of my life has taken Sermorelin before. She's cycling off of it at the moment, but she's taken it, and it made her eat more and lose weight. It is, in my experience, you know, besides like fucking Ozempic, obviously, the best fat burning peptide there is. This girl was ravenously hungry, and she could eat, and the scale went down. Her weight went down. I mean, it's out of control. She had a bigger appetite than me, and I got a pretty goddamn big appetite, man. You know, pretty big appetite. Cream did not convert to DHT for me. How do you know? Did you run your labs before and after, or are you guessing? Because guess what? If you put transcranial testosterone cream on the testicles, you have a high concentration of 5-alpha reductase 2 there, and extremely permeable, extremely vascular skin. There's no way cream didn't convert to DHT unless you are deficient of 5-alpha reductase enzymes. And the only way you'd be deficient in those is theoretically if you took finasteride, or if you were born with that. And if you were born with that, your penis wouldn't have developed. So no, your DHT is not converting. Your test cream is not converting to DHT. It's that the dose was wrong and that your protocol was wrong. Sometimes for people, just cream alone is not going to cut it. You need HCG. Sometimes for people, cream alone with HCG is not going to cut it because it maybe takes estrogen too high. So sometimes the way to use cream is to have a baseline of 100 milligrams a test and then apply a low-dose cream every day on the testicles, like one small pump or a quarter of a pump. You know, because the top click containers, when you pump it out, it comes out in like 3 little kind of squirrel. They're like little noodles that pop out of cream, you know, and you just use one of them, and there's 3 that come out of 3 to 5 that come out of the actual vial or the container, and then you just put one on there. You need to find the right dose of everything. Listen, everybody, stop saying X doesn't work or X didn't. First of all, if you didn't run the fucking bloods, you have no valid reason to say that. You need to be that ruthless. I know this sounds painstaking, but you have to be. Secondly, the dose of everything has to be right. And sometimes the margin of error on injections is under 10 milligrams. The margin of error on HCG is like 50 IU. And the margin of error regarding test cream, you know, can be as little as a quarter of a pump of low concentration cream, like 100 milligrams per milliliter. Yeah, I've spent the greater part of the last 7 years dialing people in on TRT, and I've been on it for years. I know this is what I have come to learn. It's not a theory, not an opinion. It's none of that. It's just what I see over and over again as truth. You need to have the right dose. Is that stuff long-term sustainable? What stuff? Is it worth microdosing primo indefinitely? If you can find the right dose, fuck yes it is, right? The dose that does not... Hold on. If you can find the right dose, it is absolutely worth it because you can get a little bit more anabolism and you'll look better. And it's going to block estrogen just enough, just enough without being too much. Now DHT derivatives and DHT itself, because, they block estrogen at the gene expression level, but also, probably most of these, but I know DHT for sure, downregulates, what is it, CYP19A or 191A? It's the gene that encodes aromatase enzymes. These things downregulate it, which means there's less aromatase activity and less estradiol. So you have to be real careful about your doses on these things and make sure you're supporting, especially intratesticular estradiol, so you don't crush it completely with DHT, with the use of HCG. Okay, you got to be strategic about this, guys. Hormones in general, of course, that's sustainable long term. I will be on hormones for the rest of my life. DHT itself, if the dose is right, sustainable forever. This is your master male hormone. It's what masculinizes your voice. It's what masculinizes your brain. It's what makes your erections possible. Remove DHT completely from your body, you will not get an erection. Piyush, what do I think about letrozole for testosterone? I think it's a bad idea. I think especially if you're not on TRT, you're going to nuke, my friend. You are going to nuke your estrogen. Nuke it. Full estrogen nuking. There's nothing good about that. No, it's not a good idea at all. Jay Trader, what you're saying is 100% accurate about DHT. Masteron with test causes a huge increase in sex drive, right? So he found the right dose. Masteron can crush your sex drive too. It happens all the time. But he found the right dose. Look, you could be on 120 a test and one pump of 200 milligrams per milliliter cream and 300 IU of HCG every day. And it's crushing your sexual function. But then if you reduced the cream concentration to 100 milligrams per milliliter instead of 200 milligrams per milliliter, because they have that too, clinics have that, Defy has that, Empower has that, and then you're perfect. The margin of error is so small sometimes. The right dose matters so much. I know that Hulk died, and my girlfriend just told me that yesterday. I had a rough couple days ago, not yesterday, but 2 days prior, I had a rough couple days, so I wasn't looking at the news. Sometimes when I invert into myself, I don't pay attention to any news. So I did not know until yesterday, but yeah, it's really, really a shame, brothers. It's really a shame. Ozempic may efficacy-wise beat everything in terms of fat loss, but it causes side effects, man. Yeah, it causes side effects. I knew a girl who had developed a full-blown fucking anxiety disorder to where she needed meds from taking Ozempic. Dar Fitness, thanks for the super chat, bro. Hope you're great, man. Should tyrosine be cycled pulsed? Yes, I think so. Yeah, because it's just going to downregulate. It probably temporarily downregulate, the transition to dopamine from tyrosine. Just probably a dopa decarboxylase gets downregulated a little bit when you got a lot of tyrosine. Maybe tyrosine hydroxylase as well. So I think it should be cycled. I think at this point most nootropics should be cycled, with the exception of a very select few. Is it possible to develop gyno and DHT compounds through low SHBG? I don't think low SHBG would be the cause of gyno. I think it's always estradiol. But DHT compounds generally should inhibit that, but sometimes not, just because there's aromatizable androgen somewhere. And the way to get around that would be to put DHT itself in a transdermal fashion, on your chest, where the gynecomastia is and where that breast tissue is, because that works. That works. The update is not free. No, it's got 3 additional sources with hundreds of additional products. So if you want the new version of it, then you have to buy it. And that's up to you. What you have now is fine. You don't have to buy it. What you have now, it will get you everything you need, obviously, right? But if you want those other additional sources and the most updated version of it with 3 new options, then get it. Camille, 200 milligrams test, 100 of Masteron. I feel joint pain. AI. Okay, that's because you're taking. No, the problem is you're taking an AI and Masteron. Masteron will act as your anti-estrogen. You do not need to take anastrozole with that. You don't. I would remove the anastrozole, and I would work really hard over the next month or 2 months to find the right dose of Masteron. That, to me, like we're on 200 a test, because I don't really aromatize like a crazy madman. That would kill my libido because it's too much Masteron. And you have joint pain, and that's because you're AI as well as your Masteron. You're redundantly, you're messing up here because you have an AI and Masteron. You shouldn't have to do that. One or the other, and preferably Masteron. I think Vigorous Steve would agree. Most professionals in this field would agree that if you're wanting to inhibit estradiol, use DHT itself or DHT derivative. Yep, that's where I'm at. Too, I haven't used an AI in a while, and I don't think I'm ever gonna again until I go on cycle. And that point, I'm probably gonna have to. There's really nothing else if I want my dick to work, I'll have to use an AI on cycle. For dosing and accuracy and consistency, would it be worth it to try DHT and anything 25 to 50 milligrams a week? Yeah. But understand, if you inject all that at once, 50 milligrams of DHT at once, it might have that same effect of blocking, estrogen and downregulating aromatase gene expression, which would maybe fuck with your sexual function. You really have to microdose DHT, guys. And even if even the cream is so much more powerful than people believe at producing DHT. It's out of this world. So sometimes, especially for sensitive individuals, you got to even microdose the cream. So, if you're going to be doing this, you have to have the right dose. No hair loss on 150 milligrams Masteron per week, and E2 still 32. Perfect. That's pretty good. Retro True Tried is a fat loss king. Not even fair how good it is. Hey, wonderful. It's something I haven't tried. I know Steve talks a lot about it. Good morning, brother. Red Bulls. I dialed back on. Thank you for the $20 super chat, though, brother. I really fucking appreciate that. Easy. You are the man. You are the absolute man, bro. Love that profile pic. Your icon there. But I've largely switched to Starbucks double shots, and I don't even drink a lot of them anymore. I'll go through periods, man. I don't know if you do this, Easy. And I know a lot of you might do this where you're drinking 500 milligrams of caffeine a day. And then other periods where it's like 200, 150, 200, just regular coffee. But in the morning, for sure, Starbucks double shot, which I think is 120, 80 to 120 milligrams of caffeine. And then a cup of coffee with an exorbitant amount of instant coffee that goes in the regular coffee, in the regular Keurig coffee with some hazelnut creamer. And then your boy is awake. For decades, brothers. I'm awake for decades, man. I ain't sleep like a vampire, bruh. Where's lost the question. Thank you for the super chat, dude. You don't need to do that, but I appreciate it. If you want to, fucking hell yeah, dude. I will take it. Thank you, man. Matt, I thought I heard you mention Proviron when I first tuned in. Would you mind talking about its effect when coupled with 100 milligrams TRT? Yeah, it's going to mildly inhibit estradiol production. It basically blocks aromatase, but it does so at such a mild level. And this is where Proviron actually ends up giving people the sexual function right on back. And the sexual function is perfect on TRT because it's just a little bit of the inhibition. And it's a good bit at the AR level and the brain and the tissues, the penile tissues, of the DHT-like effect. Because it's pretty close to DHT itself. Proviron is amazing. Dose has to be right on that too. You know, you got to support intratesticular estradiol too with HCG. Everything has to be right. But proviron is essentially a way to balance out the T to E to DHT ratio as far as your body is concerned, right? As far as the receptors are concerned and the tissues are concerned. DHT itself is so integral, right? And it acts like DHT for the most part in the sex organs, the seminiferous tubules, the testicles. DHT is so important for climax sensation, climax ability, erection quality. You know, you go from mediocre to rock hard with proviron, but the dose has to be right, and the rest of your protocol has to be right. It has to be right. At 100 milligrams of test a week, you should definitely be using HCG. Keep the testicles functional. You know, keep them good. That matters a lot. That whole hormone environment, which you need for sexual function, won't be regulated without that. How is it going to? You're not making anything from the testicles. It has to be regulated. But there, your estrogen shouldn't really go in some significant range. So you got to be careful with the proviron dose. I'd wager 6 to 12.5 milligrams a day. Make sure the HCG is there, though, brother. Believe me. TP at 2003 thanks for the clarification. Love the content. Really enjoyed the Mastering Sipping 8 course. Going to start going through protocols. Yes, and listen, you know, if you watch the whole course and you recognize the logic, and this is just logic I've had to accrue over the years of coaching. That makes sense to go in that order. Understand it all, but you don't necessarily have to go in that order. If you have a lot of experience already, you might know you're already somebody who can't tolerate 200 milligrams of test without an AI. You know, so go to the other protocols that bring in Primo or Master on, and then go from there. That course is going to be soon updated with the addition of one more strategy, which is the use of test cream on top of test itself, for the DHT, purposes. What side effects should you look out for with 10 milligrams Accutane per day on this Master on dose? I would first say to you, I will answer your question. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not as easy as the doctors say, and as people on Reddit will say, that it happened to be in that subset of individuals that doesn't get side effects from the use of Accutane. It's not as easy. Hey, just take it and it stops hair loss. It fucking inhibits DHT. Okay, and it's not just for the dick, but it will wreck your dick if you're one of those unlucky individuals, and it's a lot more than is reported in Merck's data and everybody's data on this. But 5-alpha reductase enzymes also do a lot more than produce DHT from testosterone. There's like a bunch of neurological stuff that you need 5-alpha reductase to convert certain things to certain other things. And you block that, and you're just going down a bad road. Not to mention, I think probably the biggest deterrent would be, as a hormone coach, I get people that's lives are ruined, their manhood's ruined. They might still have a job and make money, and they're okay. So they're not lives ruined, but they can't get an erection. They have no libido. Their penis is a dried little like nub that's white with no blood flow, no sensation. Do you want to run that risk? Because recovering that sometimes is a bitch. I've gotten really good at recovering that, but sometimes it's a bitch. And either way, that's no way to live as a man. You're going to hate your life. So to answer your question, the side effects to look out for are going to be that. Hello, brother. Hope you're well as well. Can I use HCG at high doses on tests 600 milligrams a week? You can, but I mean, for sure, if you're already at 600 a week, you're over aromatizing almost definitely. HCG is going to make that worse, but you want to keep the testicles functional, so that's going to be necessary. Cycles are hard. Cycles are pretty hard to keep your dick working. But it's just about the same thing as it always is, which is getting estradiol in your range, and that range might scale up a little bit because you have a lot of test, but not endlessly. It doesn't scale up indefinitely like people think. How bad is it to have been born with one testicle? I feel like it ruined my life. Well, I couldn't comment on that, but I think for sure you're probably producing a lot less of the things that you need. I mean, first, just you'll have to use hormone replacement there. I mean, definitely. You just hormone replacement, definitely. For everything, the HCG, possibly get some HMG. By the way, in source list, there's sources for HMG. Boys, you want to try that? In the new source list. Similar to cypionate protocol, I'm doing 60 milligrams a day, 112 a week. That's good. Test NFA, 150 IU HCG every other day, 10 DHEA every other day, 50 milligrams primo every 7 days. Since NFA peaks higher, doing 112. Yeah, good. I hope you're doing well with that. That looks like a pretty well put together protocol. It looks like a well put together protocol. Right now, I'm still on 98. No, I bumped up the test very, very slightly to 105 milligrams a week. So it's basically the same. It's essentially 7 milligrams more per week. So I'm just still around 100. Still at 330 IU of HCG every day. I've reduced my DHEA dose because it was making a little too much DHT is what I found, to 20 milligrams just in the morning. And now I'm using a quarter of a pump of 100 milligrams per milliliter transcranial cream on the testicles every morning. And things were pretty good before, pretty good. But now, this is why I'm emphasizing that little bit of DHT as well. I've seen this over the years, but I just started implementing it. The erections are out of control. I mean, just after sex, we're prolactin surges. 30 minutes later, I'm popping boners. It really does matter. The DHT is everything. Cypionate. As I just explained. Tip of the spear. Just want to say thanks to this channel. I've been injecting DHT prop. Whoa. Daily for 6 months, and sexual function is better than my teen years. Been telling you boys. That's great though. That's great. If you got your hands on some DHT propionate, I imagine that's just fucking phenomenal. Just phenomenal. I have used Nandrolone for a long time, and somehow, even that I stopped, I have somehow erection issues. Yeah, that is because, we think it's because DHN or dihydronandrolone displaced DHT at the receptor. At the same time, because it does that acutely when you're on it, you were starved of DHT for a while. So you're gonna need some tests, you're gonna need some HCG, you're gonna need DHT, either through cream or DHT itself, to remedy that over time. Which is better, 100 milligrams test plus 300 IU HCG plus DHT prop or cream? Wait, which one is better for 100 milligrams test with 300 HCG? DHT prop or cream? You mean DHT propionate or cream with that? You would probably be better off either. DHT itself is obviously more powerful than cream in terms of DHT, but cream is really good at doing that. If I were you, I'd try the cream first, because once you get into using actual DHT, it's powerful shit, man. It's powerful shit. So you've got to dial it in carefully. You don't think Masteron 200 a week will overpower the DHT side effect from 10 milligrams in Accutane? I think you don't want to run that risk, is what I think. Because all Masteron is doing is acting at the ARs like DHT, but slightly differently. It's got this anabolic effect, which prevents it from being cycled out of your body. So it sort of recycles back in, essentially. But you're still not going to make enough endogenous DHT. And on the neurological side, where you need 5-alpha reductase enzymes to convert other things to other things, you're going to be deficient in those things. You don't want that. Listen, if I can tell you, just don't use it. Don't use it. If you do, and you're trying to, compensate by using Masteron and stuff, and you end up with a lifeless, numb, white-looking, bloodless, sensationless penis that's smaller in size, you're going to wish you fucking heeded my warning, dude. This is the kind of shit I've been seeing for years. Guys, full-grown men bawling their eyes out on Skype videos with me, man. You don't want that. Mr. M, love your videos. Currently at 105 milligrams of enanthate injected every other day. 250 IU HCG every minute? What? 250 IU very minute. Brother, I can't see what you're saying. Maybe around 0.6. Great erections, and Johnson looks fatter. Well, you always want that. Can provide help with the Nandrolone issue that I explained before. Potentially. You're going to need DHT itself, though. If I were you, I would shoot for having DHT itself in this case. You're going to want that. Toe. Love that. Thank you for. I love how he just says this is how you pronounce it, because some people would be like Tokes. Toe looks toe. That makes sense because it's French or whatever it is. I mean that makes sense. Hey Ryan, 62 years young. Love that. Bought your source list on 200 a test sip. You're doing it every 3.5 days. Love that. So 120 or correction 100. Having trouble downstairs. Okay, your estrogen's too high. Almost definitely. Morning or evening, daily help. I would start with 25 per vial in a day and give that a week. See if this balances out. If not, bump it up to 50 per vial in a day. And you can go up to 75 per vial in a day. But give it a week each time you do that to see where it lands. If it does not fix the problem, you have 1,000 options at this point. It's like, find the right dose of Masteron, find the right dose of an AI, find the right dose of Primo, all individually, which will get the estrogen where you need it to be, and then everything will work. But if especially Masteron and Primo or an AI gives you joint pain and other side effects, and you can't use them, so your only option at that point is going to go down to between 80 and 120 milligrams a test a week, which is fine, especially as you get on the higher range of that. Use HCG, get the estrogen right around where your range needs to be, which you need to identify. It's usually the high end of Quest's range, 29, 30, 35 picograms per milliliter. And then add a little bit of either test cream, 100 milligrams per milliliter, a pump or a half a pump or a quarter of a pump on the scrotum every morning, or 5 to 10 milligrams of transdermal DHT on the scrotum every morning. And that'll solve your problem. But you got to dial all that stuff in. You got to, if you got sourceless, great. I mean, you're on SIP, so just get Mastering Testosterone Cypionate, and it'll show you how to dial in, in your case. But understand, regardless, that your problem right now is estrogen is not where you need it to be, and potentially the other problem is you need more DHT. I'd say with 200 milligrams a week, you have enough of it. You should have enough of it, right? But sometimes test cream and or exogenous DHT on the testicles makes such a big difference because it absorbs quickly and you get the local DHT quickly. And no matter if you're on 200 or 300 a test and you have a whole bunch of DHT in the blood, what happens at the tissues is very different. But your problem is estrogen definitely is too high, and you might need a slight bit of DHT or maybe not. Andrew, bro, I love anastrozole. Stayed away from him for years due to the hormone optimization channel. Yeah, those guys. I take 0.25 every 3 days and my dick works again. Awesome. You're not causing harm long-term if you don't have any kind of joint pain or cardiac issues, or your lipids aren't skewed from it. No, I don't think so. What it looks like is that you aromatize, a good bit, and you're taking just enough anastrozole to keep your serum estradiol levels in a reasonable place, and the anastrozole isn't unevenly inhibiting or distributing estradiol at the tissue level, which is where it matters. So it's just a case where anastrozole works for you. It doesn't work for everybody. So if I were you, I'd be thankful, bro. Thankful that you can take that stuff and it's just easy like it's supposed to be. You have tests, you're taking tests, you over aromatize, you take a fucking AI, you lower the estrogen, you're in range. And everything works, your dick works, everything's great. Here's a case, not everyone's like this. In fact, I think a majority of people aren't like that. So be thankful. No, you're not causing harm. Dave Lee says PSSD cannot be cured with testosterone or HCG, and that BPC and cerebral lysin are the way to treat it. PSSD, I would have to disagree. But Dave always, Dave has his theories on why things, might work. So it's unfair for me to say anything negative about that without talking to him. I'd want to talk. Maybe I'll bring him on the podcast and talk about that. I have not seen a case in which, regenerative peptides, neuroregenerative and otherwise regenerative peptides can treat this. So, it's not something, it's not the approach that I would take. And test and HCG itself may not be the solution, because you're going to have to control estrogen almost definitely, or get the test dose and HCG dose in play where estrogen's not too high. But a lot of these people need extra DHT support. So no, test and HCG alone may not be able to treat it. Is there a natural supplement that can mimic and boost DHT? There are, but I don't know them off the top of my head, and I would wager the effect is probably marginal, not significant. JL Montaigne 21. Knowing HDL can be hard to control on TRT. It should not be. It should not be. That is likely more influenced by your diet and lifestyle because, just on TRT alone, my HDL is always perfect. LDL as well. And then a lot of people, that's the case too. Is it then more optimal to try and keep your LDL at 100 or lower? I like to see LDL in range. You do not want cardiac markers out of range. I've seen fucking some horrific blood work, man, and people are just okay with it. And a lot of it has to do with booze and their lifestyle and all this shit, but their lipids are fucking horrendous. I wouldn't make the statement that they're a walking heart attack, but you're somewhere in that range. You don't want to, you especially don't want ApoB high. Take your lipids seriously, guys. Take your lipids seriously. Take them seriously. Hulk Hogan just died of a fucking heart attack. His fucking heart blew up. Stopped supplying the rest of his body with blood, and he died. You want to take this stuff seriously. He was only in his 70s. People live to 90 and 100 these days. Dream big. I'm the only one that needs 25 milligrams of pregnenolone per day on TRT. No, you're not the only one. Maybe because I had many head injuries. Maybe that influences it. Yeah, who knows? But you're not the only one. Some people need pregnenolone. I haven't seen it to be particularly useful. Nobody that I'm working with now takes it, and they're all great. It's not some major game changer. It might contribute a little bit to one thing or the other, but yeah. I have the sourceless HCG deal you talk about all the time. The supplier rhymes with. I have the sourceless. The HCG deal. Oh, you're asking me to give you a rhyme of what it's PPL, brother. PPL. You just have to type HCG in the search box and you'll find it. It's 10 vials, 5,000 IU per vial, and it's like $100 fucking something dollars, dude. That's what I do. Because then you can reconstitute every 3 weeks, not having to worry about money. It's not expensive. It's not only not expensive, but it's cheap. That's the value of sourceless. You're also going to get things way cheaper, dude. The $99, the sourceless is $99. The $99 you're going to spend on sourceless, you're making back in your first purchase. You're making it back in your first purchase of stuff. In a way, DHT injection would be a game changer. In what way? Well, it would be insofar as like you having the right dose of it, and then it blocks estrogen, it blocks aromatase at the gene expression level to some extent. But it supplies endothelial blood optimization and health to the penis, and it fosters nitric oxide mediated erectile quality. In addition to heavy androgen receptor binding in the brain for long periods of time, so DHT stays at the AR a lot longer than testosterone and continues to just shuttle through this gene expression, androgen mediated gene expression. Those are the reasons, in addition to some medial preoptic area hypothalamic, sex drive optimization. DHT is everything. It's everything. But you must find the right doses. Because if the dose is too high, you're not going to have the right effect. If the dose is too low, you'll have a positive effect. But it might not be exactly what you want. You want to err on when you're using DHT itself, or transdermal cream on like a hybrid cream TRT protocol, you want to err on the side of being lower on the dose. And then you want to just move up slowly to hit that Goldilocks zone. That's what you want to do. You don't want to err on the side of being too high in doses. That is not the right idea. Think about it strategically, right? If you're lower and you get a positive effect, some effect, you still have room to move upward in dose on things. You always want to err on the side of lower doses of these kinds of things when it comes to sexual function. Because higher doses of DHT can crush sexual function. Higher doses of TEST can crush sexual function. High amounts of estrogen. You always want to start that lower thing. Have you seen clients get acne when starting DHEA? Yeah, I have seen people in general, even women, get acne starting DHEA. It calms down after time, absolutely. Yep. Calms down after time. One of them being the love of my life. My woman, she started DHEA some time ago. Acne initially, calmed down completely. What do I think about GLP-1s? Not a huge. I don't know a whole lot about them. That's where I'm at with it. Nope, not a whole lot about them. No. I mean, you get a prescription from your clinic. Are there any situations where Arimidex is better than AI than Aromacin? Yes, Arimidex can be better because, Ryan, you can dial it in faster just because it's very predictable in terms of how much estrogen it's going to reduce and when it stops inhibiting aromatase, which is after, well, it's about 6 days, but most of it is just 48 hours. So since it's such a quick in and out sort of thing and it works really quickly, you can dial it in faster than Aromacin, which acts much more slower. So if that's your goal, then Arimidex would be better. Excuse me. But Aromacin, because it works slower, that ends up being better for people because it's harder to tank estradiol by taking Aromacin versus Arimidex. Arimidex, you could land yourself up Schitt's Creek in quickly. 5 hours later, you can be up Schitt's Creek. If you take too much, an hour later, you can be up Schitt's Creek. So, you know, it's just a matter of preference in terms of goals and stuff. All right, boys, I'm going to end the stream. I've got to go. I've got an important thing to do at 1 p.m. or ish. So Sourceless is back, okay? 3 new sources, boys. 3 new options with hundreds of, products. It's not going to be up forever. It's probably going to go down and then maybe come back up at another point, with new updates. But it is updated. For those of you that think there's value in the additional sources, there are, because there's stuff that aren't in the other sources. Get it? If you don't want to spend the money, all good. That's all good. That's on you. Completely okay. But grab it, and the source list is not the same. I've been over this before. I'm sure you probably just got on, but the source list is not the same in both of these. It's this, source list now is updated with 3 additional sources with a lot of products. So grab that, livecortex.com. I don't know exactly when it's going to be pulled off the site, but it is going to be pulled off the site, so we're going to have to take it down. So if you're thinking about getting it, just grab it. Just grab it, because this week, almost definitely like by late week, I'm going to have to pull it down. Yeah, I've got to still do some thinking on that. So the value, as you guys know, though, is, listen, there's sometimes you have to circumvent your clinic because they don't give a shit about dialing you in. Some of the bigger ones, all they're doing is having low-level consultants talk to you and follow a script about what to do. Oh, we'll add an AI. Oh, we'll reduce this dose. We'll add that. They're not specialists, man. So, and there's a lot of things they can't prescribe you. I have seen it to be the case that, especially with DHT itself and with Masteron or Primo, that people just need those things, or Proviron. They need them to dial in. They get a little bit of estrogen reduction and they're getting the DHT-like effect that they can't get with injections. They can't. It's just the way the body works. Sometimes you need, TRT itself is not perfected. You just don't make everything in proportional amounts according to what you need. Everybody, it's different. So grab Sourceless, livecortex.com, or down the description of this video. Not going to be up forever. Thank you guys for your questions. Content coming this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, likely, and then another live stream the following weekend. So please look forward to that. And fucking enjoy the rest of your weekend. All right, guys. Thanks for the questions. Love you guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.